Hey, Kevin Coy here from selfreliantlife.com, and I wanted to just do a video on the transformation that's about to take place on our project here as a big truck goes by. We're about to have just a big, huge change in the overall project here at the beach house, so come on in. So this is the last time we're going to be filming with the framing exposed, because about 8:30 tomorrow morning we're going to insulate, and everything's going to get covered up. So I just wanted to kind of do a one last walkthrough with you and let you see what we've accomplished so far to date with the project. And so far, I'm going to grab my inspection. This project's been completely above board to code, and we're being inspected by our development crew here at the county, and so we have to go through all the phases and inspections. So we've had our setbacks have been approved. We have to have a certain distance from the edges of the property line for the house. And so they came out and measured, made sure we were in the appropriate areas for that. The footing for the foundation, and then the foundation itself, and then the concrete slab, which is our finished floor, that's what we're going to have. And the framing, then we did all the framing, and they inspected that to make sure that was done correctly and to code. After that, we just recently had our plumbing inspected, so we had our pressure test done on both the sewer and the freshwater side of our plumbing project, so everything was fine, nothing leaked. And then our electrical, which is actually a separate agency, it's through Labor and Industries in our state, which is Washington here. So we had to go through an inspection on what we call a rough-in electric, and that's getting us to the point where we can cover up the walls. All the wiring is in the building. The breaker box is wired up and labeled with all the breakers in it. All the outlets and all these little blue boxes that you see around the house here have had all their pigtails made up, and everything's ready to what we do. The next phase would be to set trim on these, which is we're going to put an outlet in here and put a cover plate on after the walls go on. And so each of those have been done, and there's about 40 of them in and out of the building. And then our mechanical inspection was also done, and the mechanical had to do with our gas piping that we had brought in. We're going to have a small gas heater sitting right here, so we've got that stubbed out, and then it stubs outside right there to hook up to a propane tank, because we don't have natural gas here in the area. And then it goes over through the ceiling up here in the attic space and drops down into the kitchen, which is where it pops out again, a little stub out down here, and that's for our gas propane stove that we're having over here. So we had to have that inspected. It had to be pressure tested as well to make sure it didn't leak, so they actually put they pressured it up with air and put a gauge on there and prove that overnight it didn't leak any air out, so we know it's tight. And then the next phase here is going to be that we have been okayed by both agencies to go ahead and put insulation in. And so tomorrow morning we're going to be putting R21 in the wall and R49 in the ceiling, which is a huge amount of insulation. They actually put two separate types of batting in there. One's an R30, one's an R19, to give us a huge pillow of insulation up here in our attic space. So this is going to be a very well insulated building when we get done, which winds up costing a little bit more to do that, but I think insulation is well worth the extra money. It's going to save you money for years afterward in heating and cooling costs. So all of our windows are in, and 2 of the 4 windows by code had to have vents in them. So they have these little vents right up here that you can open and close and let air in and out. It's a little bit of what we call makeup air. And that's because we have to also by code have what's called a whole house vent, and that's just to keep insulation, air circulation going through the house. The way we do construction today, houses are very tight. When I say tight, I mean airtight. And because of that, we have to for indoor air quality sake, we want to have a whole house fan that has about 50 CFM an hour pulling through the house, so we get a little bit of an air change every couple hours or so, and that makeup air has to come off these windows in order to do that, because there's nowhere else for it to come, and so it would create pressure and wouldn't function otherwise. So anyway, a little bit about that. So we're missing one door. We've cut out the framing for it and everything. It's right over there behind the temporary furnace we've got in here, and we're just leaving that off right now because we're still bringing building materials in and out, and we didn't want to take it through a door frame that was going to get banged up. Well, and I want it off so when I do the staining. And yeah, when we do the finished floor staining, we have to scrub the floors up, and of course there'll be water on the floor, so we're going to use that as a way to squeegee it out of the building, and so that's just open at the bottom. And then we have a couple of applications of stains and sealers so that we can keep rinsing and going through our different phases of that. So what's coming up? We're looking at some color schemes here. The walls, what we're going to do is we're using this plywood as our finish wall rather than sheetrock because we like the looks of it. And so we've got a couple different stain colors here that we're kind of zeroing in on. This is a English chestnut.
That's our ceiling.
And this is, yeah, we're going to use this on the ceiling, and that's a little bit more of it right there on this plywood. And then it's a 1/2 inch nice finished both sides plywood that we're using. This is American, was it weathered oak?
Yes.
Weathered oak, okay, so that's we're looking at this for the wall, and then this is cherry, which we're also kind of taking a look at for the wall, and we're just kind of looking at how they look against each other. And then this is a cabinet door from our upper cabinets that we're going to be putting in, so we have a color coordination going on here. Playing around with this.
We're not really sure which to do, and you and I are kind of disagreeing a little bit on the wall color, so it might be kind of interesting to ask if anybody has any thoughts.
Anise is leaning toward this one, the weathered oak, and I'm leaning toward this cherry right here for the wall, and then that would be our ceiling color. So that's where we're a little torn yet, so we thought we'd throw some on here and just kind of get a look at it and see what we thought, and that's what we're playing with right now. So what else? So anyway, it's going to transform drastically here pretty quick. You won't be able to see up into the framing up here because the insulation is going to be there. And then our next inspection is after they put all the insulation in. Our building inspector will come back out and verify that the insulation was put in correctly to the amount, the correct R factor, and applied correctly into the framing. When he gives me the go-ahead on that, that allows us to do what we call cover. And cover is putting the walls on. And so that's when things are really going to get fun here. We're actually pretty excited at this point. We've gotten a long ways to get to here. And so we're getting down to the part of actually getting to see some of the finish transformation of this, our house here coming into play. We've already got about 10 sheets of this plywood loaded in here to start staining as soon as we decide on colors. But we're going to do the lid first, which is the ceiling. We call it the lid. And then the walls will come a little later after we do the floor. So we're going to stain up the floor, which is a multi-step process of cleaning and applying and rinsing and then sealing. And so we got to get that done right after they get insulation up. Once we do that and we have the lid on, now we can start putting the walls together, and so we'll be getting some more plywood. It's going to take
about 24 sheets.
24 sheets to get the walls done, less the interior walls for the bath area. So pretty exciting right now. We're about to see a big transformation in what this space is going to look like. It's going to shrink a little visually for us because right now we have visual view of the attic space every time we walk in, so it looks bigger in here by volume. And as soon as that insulation goes in, we're going to have a ceiling, and it's going to take on more of a final shape for us volume-wise in here. The last part of what's going to really define our space is when we wall up the interior walls right here of the bath and separate that, because right now, again, we're looking all the way through everywhere. You know, we can see all the exterior walls and up into the attic space. So this is going to really define the space for us, which we're pretty excited to see where we go with that. And then we're going to get down to after they inspect our insulation, then we're not going to have an inspection again until the final inspection. And so the final is going to be the house is completely done. All the trim is set, all the plumbing, all the electrical, all the cabinetry, obviously the walls, the ceilings, the floors. The exterior will be finished, all the siding is going to be on, all the electrical will be ready. And then they will come out and give us a final inspection and sign off what they call certificate of occupancy. And that allows us to move into the house and start using it. So we're getting really close, so we're getting really excited. We're going to be ordering our cabinets for the kitchen this week so they can start building those. That's going to be about a 3-week process before they can have those delivered, which is going to give us enough time. Also puts us on a little deadline because we want to have everything ready for those to be delivered, because we really don't have any place to put them in here until at least the floor gets done, and preferably the walls, because we don't want to have to keep shuffling things around in this space. So we have one interior door here to buy also, and so we're going to be choosing that shortly. We've chosen the 2 exterior doors. One of them's on, obviously. We've chosen the hardware for those doors, and those are setting aside. We've been picking out lighting for the entire house and deciding, you know, what we want to do there. All the cabinets and countertops have been chosen, so yay, we got that figured out. That was a big ordeal.
And we can agree.
Yeah, that was good. So, you know, it's been an ongoing process, and there's a lot of moving parts to building a house. We talked about this before, we're building this for cash. We're going to be mortgage free when we get done. Just to reiterate, and I know we've had a huge influx of subscribers lately to the YouTube channel and to our website, and so this is a 24 by 24 house. So it's about the size of a 2-car garage, and then there's a 24 by 12 covered porch outside that we have in addition to that, which is almost another 300 square feet. So about 575 square feet inside, and then another covered space out there. We live in a Mediterranean type climate, so it's mild. We don't get really hot in the summer. We don't get really cold in the wintertime, so it's indoor-outdoor living. And this was designed after a lot of the spaces that we like to live in when we're on vacation down in the tropics. We like to go to the Caribbean, and so they have these nice little easy living kind of condo suites, and so this was what inspired us to build this. We didn't want to go super tiny, like the little 200 square foot tiny houses, because we just didn't feel that was you know, a space we could live in long term, so we decided to go small, which is what we have here. So we're still under 600 square feet, just a little under, and we have, you know, it's an experiment, so we're going to see how it fills out and how it feels, and if this is going to suit us. Meantime, what we've done is documented this whole process for you guys. We started out all the way back when we started looking for the property that we wanted to build on. We bought a rough lot with no development, and then we've developed this all the way from finding and purchasing the property all the way up to where we're at today, and had to clear out an area. We had to put in...
Remove trees.
Yeah, we removed about 7 trees in the area, and a lot of brush, because this was almost impenetrable when we first got here, so it's been a big transformation there. And we only removed just what we had to kind of keep the aesthetic of the Pacific Northwest environment. We've got a lot of native species of plants and trees and bushes still on the property, and we wanted to kind of keep that aesthetic, so we've done as little as we had to create that you know, little disruption here. So all the way through developing of the property, clearing the property site, putting in the infrastructure to support the house, which is the water, power, sewer, and we're basically mostly off-grid here. We have our own sewer system, which is a septic, so it's in-house, if you will. I'm not paying for a sewer bill. We have a well on the property, so we have our own water supply, so we don't have to pay for water. And then we do have electricity coming in because by code we have to have that here, and so we do have electricity, but it's very minimal. In fact, our power bill has typically been under $50 a month while we've been living here in our RV, and I don't think...
Isn't much smaller than our house.
Yeah, we're not talking about a big difference in square foot here, really. And so I don't anticipate that getting real big. And then we have propane for heating and cooking, and so that's also keeping us partly off grid. So really we just have electricity that we use a small amount of every month. So we've eliminated a lot of costs, monthly costs of living, by having invested in some of those systems that are on our property and not have to be paying water, power, and sewer out, which can be, expensive. So just want to talk about that. So we've been documenting this whole process, and I just want to let you know, and a shout out to all of our current people that are in our builders course right now, and I wanted to show you that we do have, we've gone through the entire process and documented this extensively, and we created a small home builders developers course, Be Mortgage Free. And we got a number of people in that class right now, and they're following along. And this is a how to build your house, not necessarily how to build my house, because our house is the way we want it. And so you could certainly copy it and do what you want, the same thing, or you can customize it to fit whatever your living style is. And so that is available on our site, selfreliantlife.com. You can go check that out. I'll put a link at the bottom of the video here, and that course is available. It's very deep, and when I say deep, I mean thorough, as far as covering everything, how to negotiate with contractors, how to save a lot of money. So far, when we first came in here, we had a contractor give us a bid. How do we, to build this house, we don't touch anything, we walk in and start living in it, and that was about $70,000 just for the house. That didn't include the development costs on the property. And we have done our own building for the most part. We've had a couple of things done for us, and I didn't know how to do all this stuff and wasn't an expert. I wired my own home for the first time this time. I've done some wiring, but certainly not to this extent, and I didn't have any problem passing, so it's very doable. And I did have a pre-inspection, and inspectors, we've had a lot of conversations, and they're very huge resource for you. Don't be afraid of inspectors. Inspectors are great guys. I've had constant conversation through our process, asking them, because codes change all the time, and things, have to be done differently as materials improve, as technology improves. We had a interesting addition in our electrical where we had to put in some new breakers that are protect against fires that just came into place about 2 years ago that I wasn't aware of. So when I had him come out and kind of do a pre-inspection with me, he made me aware of all those things, and I had a couple of things I needed to change a little bit. And then the second time he came out, passed no problem. So that being said, we've documented all this because there's a fair amount of moving parts, like I said before, going through this process, and it can be overwhelming. But if you have a pathway to see what's the first, second, and third thing I need to do, kind of an ABC process, then you can walk your way through this and wind up saving yourself a lot of money. So we've conservatively cut our cost of building this house in half by doing the majority of the work ourselves versus having somebody do it. Now, I've had a couple of things here that I've had done, and that's, if you act as your own general contractor, you can pick and choose the parts you want to do or want to help with, or want to just say, I don't want to do that, somebody else do it. And so in that case, I helped do the concrete. I don't have a lot of concrete experience, nor do I have the specialized equipment and tools to do that. So I paid a guy to come in and do that, and then I was his helper, which saved me money because I became a laborer for him. Second thing is I paid a guy to come out and help me frame the building. He and and I both framed up the walls and sheeted everything in, and then we put the trusses on and sheeted the ceiling, and so I was involved in that, which saved me a ton of money because I was half the labor cost myself. The roofing I chose to have somebody do for me. The cost difference between doing it myself versus having these guys come out and do it was small enough that I didn't want to do it. I've done it before, I know how to do it, but I didn't feel like doing it this time, so I paid them to do it. The next thing was we went ahead and papered in the entire exterior so that we weatherproofed it, and we put all our windows in. We put in our door. We're putting in our other door over here. I've done all the plumbing and all the electrical myself, and then I chose to have a guy come in and do the gas pipe. It was nominal. By the way, if you do that, get multiple bids, because the first bid came in at $750 and supposedly was going to take 6 hours with 2 guys to do it. The second bid I got was $450, and it only had 1 guy for 2.5 hours, which he actually did it in that time. So big difference in price, and I wound up having them do it, and it passed code, so I was happy with that. So we're going to be paying somebody to do the insulation. When we added up the cost of insulation for us to purchase it versus having somebody to come in and do it,